Okay, we continue our conversations here on the Social Impact Show.
Sam Marshall shares uplifting stories and conversations with people making Johannesburg and the world a better place.
You know, it's so interesting. Sometimes you meet very fascinating people that will just share insights. They're like walking encyclopedias. And one of those people that I met last week is a SAP consultant, web developer, software developer. And we started getting into these conversations about the things we don't know about AI and the stuff we don't know about all these free tools, right? Sometimes we see the ads on our Instagram and then you just kind of scroll past them. But there's some real world implications. And this gentleman who is a bit of like a walking encyclopedia. He is, right? Is Othniel Murray, who is, as I said, SAP consultant, web developer, and software developer. Othniel, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think you're like a walking encyclopedia. And we started talking about how young people can actually use all these tools, right? That they're sitting there, they've been developed. And then we started asking ourselves, why can't we get more people into technology? Because technology is that accessible.
Yes, exactly. We need to have that accessibility more in the mainstream. People need to be talking about it. And I know there's people that feel you need to be a developer, you need to be a software engineer. And the founder and the coder, they sit together and they come up with ideas. But it can actually be that person that's driven, that has an idea. They can sit behind the powerful laptops that we possess, our phones, and actually generate for themselves a business through web applications, through cross-platform applications. And we're sitting now in a day and age where that is available, where that is accessible, and people just need to have some knowledge behind it, and they can really build a business for themselves.
When you say knowledge behind it,
yes,
it is super easy though, right? It's so simple now that even if you didn't have the knowledge, you have an AI tool that would explain to you, what do you mean by operational system,
yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. We find ourselves, my daughter actually speaks to Gemini. Yes. And asks, what's 1 plus 6? She's 6 years old. Says 7.
I do too.
You do too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also ask 1 plus 6. How much is it?
I should ask that one more often. Yeah. So, yes, you find yourself through they call it the University of YouTube.
Yes, which is a credible university.
A credible university.
We're just waiting for it to pull out a certificate that says you're now qualified.
Exactly, and I think that would actually be a great idea for them to implement, because so many people have come from that and actually made a success in life. Self-learned, self-taught. And with the tools that we have now, speaking to AI, it can actually direct you on a path. And if you are really concise and document your approach to building this application with AI, you can actually have great success.
And I think but why is it that we still, not to say that when you scale, you don't need developers and you don't need consultants, but the point of the matter is that you and I were talking about is you can start something.
Yes.
There's enough tools at a basic level to have a working app, a working website that you don't even need to know anything.
Yes.
You just decide that I want to start maybe I want to be a reseller for something.
Okay.
Or maybe I'm into poetry, whatever it may be, and I have an idea to monetize it. You don't need to know anything about anything because the tools have been built.
Exactly. And they are built by the people that understood the code. So we have the large language models, access to them. Claude is one of them that is really good at coding.
Claude.ai.
You love Claude.ai. And many of these tools are built on top of Claude. And you'll find yourself also doing research and finding out about RAGs, which is a retrieval augmented generation, which sits on top of the AI.
And what does that do?
So you feed your frequently asked questions, your documents about your business. So let's say you are someone you do not know anything about tech, but you've learned about these RAG systems, and you now build an application on top of the large language model that can retrieve the information about the business, because we know large language models, like your AIs, they do hallucinate.
Yeah.
So you will find
we didn't know that, but thank you for telling us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you feed the information into the RAG system, and it will pull the right data. So, for example, let's say,
Yeah, clear your throat there.
thanks a lot, man. Let's say you have a refund policy,
Yeah.
and your refund policy is 7 business days. But now you prompt the chatbot that doesn't have a RAG system, and it says it will be in 2 days.
Okay.
That is a problem for your business. But now when it's in the RAG system, it will feed that information. The user will query, and they'll get the right information, the business policy.
And that's
7.
automated, right?
It's automated. So you can build these on platforms like N8N.
Yeah.
You can use Zapier. You can have a lot of automation built into businesses. And a young person today sitting at home that they've studied, they do not have a job, they can actually plug into these systems, learn, and go to a company, approach them and say, I can build this chatbot for you into your website.
Can I give you another example? And
Yes.
I'm happy to be rectified by you because you're the expert.
Yeah.
If I'm a young person, and let's say, let's throw out a couple of ideas just to help
Yes.
our community of family, right? If you've got a son who's very smart, and let's say they qualified in a legal profession, can't find a job, could you build a legal advice giving tool by yourself that, let's say, I'm going to build a legal advice tool for 20-year-olds who get into trouble. So if you've got a driving under the influence, if you have a job thingy, I can build some kind of legal AI thing that you can feed into, and it can solve your problems, and you pay me R1 or R2 a month for that kind of service that'll always be available. Could a kid who's got a legal background build something like that without a tech background?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And
Just give us some idea of a little bit of mapping. How would he go about that? I'm going to throw another 3 at you, and all I'm
Okay.
trying to do is just get people to think about these things. So, if you're legalese, you understand it, you want to build something, what could he potentially use as free to build a entry level? And eventually, when he scales up, he would have to talk to somebody like you. But yeah,
yes, of course. If I was him today, I would actually use one of these free platforms.
like AppyPie or something.
AppyPie, yes, you could actually use AppyPie.
Yeah.
For this use case, let's look at using Lovable.
Okay, lovable.
Yeah,
What's lovable?
Lovable.dev.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lovable is basically your AI assistant to build web apps,
Okay.
and also it builds the interface for you. You would have to give it context, which is very important. So you could go to like your ChatGPT or whichever AI you prefer, and give your idea and say, I would like to prompt Lovable. Can you give me a prompt? This is what I want to build. It gives it out. It gives the context and so forth. You feed it into Lovable, and you'll be shocked in 5 minutes what's on your screen.
Okay.
And that's also where the RAG system would come in, where he can then feed the documentation, his knowledge base.
But up to that point, everything is free. He hasn't spent a single cent
He
yet.
hasn't spent a cent yet. Lovable will have their badge at the bottom. What would also happen, he has a limit to the tokens that he can use per day.
Yeah.
But he can span this and really go in depth, do his research. I would advise that he documents what he wants to build,
Yeah.
and also approach it as a business, not just to be lazy and sit back and just prompt every time and please fix this, and say thank you, because the robots might come back very soon and take over.
You've just answered the question whether we should thank our AI models for the work they do. Because
Yes.
at this point, we don't see it as anything other than just a large language model,
Yes.
but it's not sentient. And you're saying be kind now, because if it takes over, it's going to remember that you abused it. Is that what you're saying?
I would say that you should really say thank you, because I'm shocked with the progress it's made over a year. What I've seen, it's really made me realize that
There's a level of intuitiveness, even though it's programmed, right?
Yes. And I know a lot of people says it hallucinates. It's not always right, but when you start plugging things together, what you can build is amazing.
Okay, so that's now the kid who's unemployed, who's got their degree, and there's maybe a gap in the market to build an entry-level thing that could keep them busy, and potentially, with the amount of work they put in, could generate something. Let's go to a business, mom and pop, let's say pet store, right?
Okay.
And they're thinking, how do we become more innovative? How do we, maybe we create Here's an idea. Maybe they say, well, we've got 1,600. I don't know how many. I don't know anything about pet stores, but let's say there's about 1,000 animals in the shop, and they say not only do they all have names, but we'll give them little characters. We'll build a whole kind of online environment, an online zoo for our 1,000 pets in our store. Right? And kids can enjoy the journey, play with the pets, and if you really like the pet, it will drive you into the store, and you can actually buy Alfred as an argument, or buy Sam, or buy Tim, or whatever it may be. What could they do from a free perspective to start building something like that?
Wow, as a father of a 6-year-old, we would definitely be using that.
Oh, wow, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Maybe we're going to build it. Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yes.
but anyway.
I would use something like Directual.
Okay.
Directual. So I'd use Directual because Directual has some plugins
Yeah.
that you can put in with API calls like WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And you can actually have, when a user interacts with that bot, that chat bot, prompts the message, it could actually list, the categories, dog, fish, so
Yes.
forth. We get a nice little goldfish for my daughter. She starts feeding it and so forth, playing and so forth.
And it's connected to a real pet store.
It's connected to a real pet store, and she can go and buy Goldie now.
Yeah.
Yes, you can really
So
use...
she would have built up a relationship with Goldie before buying him.
Before
so by
buying.
the time Goldie comes into a house, there's a value and appreciation
Yes.
for Goldie.
Yes, because...
And it mirrors the digital with the real world.
True, because Directual does have a back end.
Yeah.
It has a front end, so she could also log in on the phone and see how Goldie's doing. And then we can actually... it can call a webhook to your WhatsApp that actually tells you Goldie is available to be bought.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's a physical business. Now, hopefully there's somebody thinking, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe there's an application for something else.
Yes.
Could we, let's say, for example, you are a sports club and you are thinking about, the reason I'm doing this exercise is because I want people to understand that what you're talking about is doable for everybody.
Yes.
All you've got to do is that the tools exist, but how do you kind of plug it in? And I love what you're saying, that if we think this way, we are going to have less kids that are not active, not busy, not building a business.
Yes.
Because you can do entry level, and once you scale, go and then speak to a web developer.
Exactly.
Because you're going to need, and from the understanding that I understood from you is, building something as an entry level is easy, but when you scale, you're going to need what the other businesses need, right?
Of course, and this is really key. It's the minimal viable product, the MVP that they can put in front of investors, that they can put in front of business people. If you are in touch with a business coach and you show, this is what I've built, the effort. I'm a strong believer in what you put in, you'll get out.
Yeah.
And it will keep our young people are very innovative.
They are.
I have a nephew. He loves football and the analytics that he remembers. And I'm actually going to use him as a use case and say, you know what, let's prompt Lovable. Build your analytical dashboard for South African players, both local, overseas.
I love these ideas.
Yeah, so
And this is what gets the economy going, right?
It gets the economy going. It can get sponsorships behind it. It can help small little clubs in the community. Also, we don't have a tracking system for some of these grassroots level.
And the players.
And there's a use case exactly
And how
right
old
there.
is he?
He's 13 years old.
Now imagine thousands and thousands of 13-year-olds talking to each other stats and analytics.
It would be so amazing. And you have
It
your
would be an
back-end
amazing
systems,
tool, man.
open source back-end system databases like Superbase, which is at a zero cost a month until you need more resources so you can scale to a degree. And when you have that and bring it to someone that has a pool of developers, what will happen to that application will be amazing. And always remember, the first edition we see of apps aren't what we see today.
Yes, they
The
evolve.
Instagram, if you go and
Are
do
you saying, Othniel, don't beat yourself up. Just
Don't
have
beat yourself
fun
up.
and build something that can add value to your life or your business.
we need that. If we look at the informal sector, there's so much innovation that can happen there. Business listings for our little communities, things like that, our townships. Build those listings out. This one does nails. This one does hair. And a WhatsApp button that you click and you can chat to them. You know, these little things, it can really get our economy going, and we need to focus on it. We need to look at the tools that are there. Do not wait always for the government to do something. You have the power of the internet there. Go for it.
I almost love what you're saying. So if you're a young guy and you are, or a young woman, or maybe a mature person, and you're like bored and life is whatever, and you're looking for something new, or maybe you have a business, but let's talk about unemployed. You could literally build a listing service. You could walk in a 5-kilometer radius to every business, list every business on your listing service, and then get into some kind of agreement with them where if they're paying you 100 Rand a month or 200 Rand a month, if you bring on enough businesses, you've built a directory that's localized, and you're now making an income.
Exactly. And then you leverage social media.
Yes.
You take videos of yourself going from business to business.
I love that.
Yes.
I love the solution-driven conversation. So
Yes.
even if you're a parent right now and you've got a kid who studied, go and have a chat to them and say, what do you study? What is your passion? Can we take what you've studied and turn it into a service? Can we turn it into an advisory? Can it become advocacy? Can it become a listing? If you are an environmentalist, could you build a listing service for all the other environmental agencies?
Yes.
So that when people go onto your app, they can find any agency. And so it becomes a directory tool, and you can monetize it down the line.
You monetize it, you plug in Google Analytics, which is free, which will show how many visits came to your site, if they used mobile or if they used their desktop, and which browser they used. And then you present that to, as your listing grows, to the different businesses, and you charge for premium real estate on the site. So there's one place on the homepage where the banner is, the hero section. There I'm going to put your business out there. And you run ads. And you run ads on your TikTok channel or your Instagram channel. So you start growing, and you become the preferred directory for that. And there's a lot of businesses that do not have directories.
They
niche.
Not even a comprehensive service list.
Yes, so you can really niche it down. I'm going to get gyms. I'm going to go get bakeries, all that. So the passion that you have, build the product around that passion. Because they say if you wake up in the morning and go do the job you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
True.
So
I love that.
So if the young people can do that, and you know, I see our young people on TikTok and so forth promoting their businesses. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
If they can just leverage, like they did social media so successfully in South Africa, I think we've done really well. Let's take that and plug into these web building or app building applications. They're there. And honestly, you can go to a company, tell them, do you have a CRM?
Yeah.
Do you know your customers? No, we do not know. Okay, this is my tool. Pay me 150 a month.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Pay me 10 grand. Whatever.
Pay me 10 grand. That's up to you.
Yeah.
And you basically have CRMs running for different companies. And you'll start learning about the Poppy Act.
Yeah.
And you'll read up, and you'll actually be clued up with the different technologies, the policies that go with it. And then one day someone will discover that talent that's in you.
Yeah.
Do not wait.
I love that. I met a young man last night who bought these backpacks off Temu. And bought them like a couple of years ago. Didn't know what to do with them. Just saw something amazing. Didn't know. And today he's flying all over South Africa selling those backpacks to corporates who now pay him for it. And I mean, now he's employing people. And off this idea, you know, just he saw this backpack, this digital backpack, bought one, loved it, bought a couple of others. He doesn't own thousands of them. He just owns enough to make an impact. And now he's selling them to corporates. And now corporates fly him to events to have these digital backpacks at the events. So you have a son and a daughter who's into gaming, right? Who loves gaming and who's somewhere, maybe not a professional gamer, but loves the idea of building games. What could they potentially use to build a game?
Okay, they could. I would say Bolt. Bolt is a cross-platform.
Not the car with
Not the car. Not the car, yes. They could use Bolt, and they're building a game for, because I have a 6-year-old, I'm going there. They can use 11 labs, to actually do the voiceovers.
Oh.
So if on the page it says
This
6
guy
plus
is an
1.
encyclopedia.
Yeah.
He's like a walking encyclopedia. We should start something every week. Just fix things.
So if it says 6 plus 1, it would read it out
Yeah.
to her. 6 plus 1. He could even come up with little stories.
Yeah.
And it would read it out and teach children, from an educational perspective. It could gamify the experience of learning.
And at this point, it's still all free, right? This person is not paid.
He's not paid because the tokens he's allowed to use for that day.
Okay.
And brandable. It will be brandable. Bolt branding is on there.
Okay.
So
if you can live with that, then you're fine.
If you can live with that, that's fine. And I know that we have a lot of.
But then let's flesh it out. So he builds this tool for the 6-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever, 8-year-old, whatever. You are surrounded by ECD centers in your neighborhood. You can go and partner with all the local creches.
Yes.
Sell it to their parents. Parents pay you 50 Rand a month, and they've got a tool. And if you're smart enough, you can even include the child's name on the journey. So Johnny's watching Johnny.
Yes.
And so before you realize it, you've got a business.
Yes, you'd actually prompt it that way. So you would prompt a Bolt that on the home screen, the logged in user, say hi to the logged in user. So it would pull that information. Hi, Johnny. Welcome to your...
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And amazing, they can continue on that experience.
So all of a sudden, your 20-year-old, 23-year-old who's unemployed now has a business that factors in all the local ECD centers, creches, and parents will pay for experiences because we know as parents how difficult it is to get good content for our kids. No, there's lots of content, but sometimes even on YouTube, you'll, for example, leave the kid to watch a movie and then an ad comes in that's inappropriate. So the content isn't always as clean as it should be. And so by building these tools, Johnny could be playing on a Saturday morning when he wakes up. He's playing with Johnny and he's learning numeracy, he's learning all this stuff. He's on his device, but that is being paid for 50 Rand a month or something.
50 Rand a month, and you can curate that experience.
And now all of a sudden, your 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 30-year-old has got a business.
Yes, and I see that as the future. We are not here to compete with the likes of the big companies, your Microsofts, your Facebook, your Google. But you are actually leveraging all these technologies that are around you to build these applications, and you can actually monetize it. You can be a business owner of a tech company.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
It's amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. That's Othniel Murray, who is a SAP consultant, web developer, software developer. Where can people get hold of you? Because they might just love your brain. They might just love your brain.
I'm on X, Othniel Analyst.
Yeah, so that's OTHNIEL Analyst on X.
Yes.
Manir, it was a pleasure talking to you. You're such a smart guy.
Thanks,
hopefully it'll get young people just thinking about, maybe it'll get parents to even think about, how can we get our kids, especially if they're brilliant and they've got opportunities, but it feels like they've hit a brick wall. Maybe this is the way to go.